pecking order was thrown into chaos at Silverstone, but are McLaren hungry for more success? Terrible pun, I know. Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast. This is episode 307. And if you'd like to see or hear more from us in your social feed, why not give us a follow on? We are at Grid Talk UK. Everywhere you can find the @ symbol. I'm your host, Tom Horrox, and today I'm joined by Grid Talk host Owain Medford.
Hello.
Also Grid Talk host Tom Downey.
Hello.
And sports broadcaster Charlie White.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And now we're going to just have a quick word from our sponsor, betonline.ag. BetOnline is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as they have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL, hockey, right through to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games that you can play right from your home. Head to betonline.ag today. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. So we had a great British Grand Prix. Well, I say great; it's certainly a reasonable British Grand Prix. There's lots going on and lots of subplots. But after the British Grand Prix, we did get a bit of breaking news. Now, if you want to go back to hear Tom Downey's opinion on that, then go and listen to our breaking news podcast we did straight after the effect. But Charlie, I'm going to come to you now. What's your opinion of the move Ricciardo back to AlphaTauri?
I think if you're going to make the move at all, you normally would wait. In my opinion, you'd wait until we get through this Hungary Grand Prix, get into the summer break, and then start to move your pieces around the board. I think just one race left before an extended break is kind of silly to do it, because it's not going to help the team. I don't think Ricciardo is going to magically sit in that seat and pull an AlphaTauri that is 2 races left, before the summer break. And I don't think he's going to sit in that car and, make it do any better than what the crap it is. So it's not a good car. Not saying De Vries is innocent, because as Tom alluded to in his and George's breakdown of it, I do agree that he came in saying, well, I'm not a rookie, so on and so forth. So he should be judged as he thinks he should be. But I don't think Ricciardo is going to be a savior for AlphaTauri by any means. And again, I just think it just makes it all look like a sham for anyone looking at anything Red Bull going, do I really need to be under that magnifying glass, that microscope? Because I'm going to be called out everywhere by my own team. And so that's a lot of pressure on a young driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly just putting Ricciardo in the car is not going to make it a better car. I think maybe just throwing him in for a couple of races, at least it gives him a chance to take stock, and then he can have the summer break to kind of figure out any issues that come about. So if they're going to do it, I understand that why wait? You just get him in there, and then a bit more experience. If Nick De Vries isn't going to do anything, maybe Ricciardo will. But overall, a bit of a strange situation. But we're not at all surprised by Red Bull doing it, as it does seem to be their modus operandi. But we'll move on to the team, which obviously is Ricciardo is going to be racing for. So we get to hear your opinions on this, Owain. Statistically, the worst performing team, but how much of a boost will it be to have Ricciardo back in this team? And how will Tsunoda feel about the incoming Aussie as well?
I think I'll start with sort of Tsunoda. I think I feel like he's got to be relatively wary. Obviously, Ricciardo is a proven race winner at multiple different places. I think it remains to be seen, obviously, how well he'll adapt to the car. I know he struggled with the McLaren. He wasn't amazing with the Renault, although the Renault wasn't particularly great. And obviously he was put off by Max when he was in Red Bull. But I think it's a positive for Ricciardo to get into the race seat. And I don't know. I don't think you can ever count Ricciardo out, really. So I think Tsunoda probably has something to worry about, bearing in mind that he only has 2 points. And as much as the car isn't going to perform miracles, and Ricciardo might take a while to sort of acclimatise to it. But if we assume that Ricciardo has until the end of the season, which I'm going to, but it is Red Bull, so they could replace him if he does even worse than De Vries. I think it's obviously a positive for Ricciardo to have that ability, to have that this opportunity. He's actually going to get a race seat for this year, which is always valuable. So I think any result where he gets points or anywhere near points is going to be, that's valuable for him. But it's I don't think you can work miracles. We've seen that, and I think it's going to be a hard slog, particularly if he gets off on the back foot and he's already. If he's no better than De Vries, it's going to be, if anything, magnify the pressure on him. So I think it's going to be, a difficult time. With regards to the scheduling, I'm not sure. It's difficult to say, and I'm not even sure how well AlphaTauri is going to go at Hungary. I'm not sure that the sort of the high downforce really suits their car. I mean, obviously, I think Nick De Vries did relatively well in Monaco, but that was completely different in terms of sort of circumstances. So I think it's a tricky one for them. I don't think any more miracles are going to be performed.
Yeah, I think that car needs to be quicker in the straights and the turns and the high-speed turns and the low-speed turns. And when it's stationary, it needs to be quicker as well. And it's just not a good car. So it's like I say, Ricciardo's not going to perform miracles in that car. If he can get to Tsunoda's level before the summer break, then I would say that's a fantastic achievement. So let's just see what happens. But at least there's going to be eyes on the team and interest in the team. And I'm very sorry, Tom, but I'm going to give you the team that really doesn't have a lot going for it right now. It just seems to be treading water. I say this every time I do a preview. They're just treading water up until the time when Audi come in. You've got Alfa Romeo in 9th place in the championship, another poor showing in Silverstone, and they're now sitting 9th in the championship with no real sign of improvement. However, Bottas did have a huge impact in the 2021 race, though, well, with Norris's car and the 2 Red Bulls. But can we maybe see a repeat of that, please? That would be nice, apart from Norris.
You really have to give me Alfa Romeo.
I'm sorry.
I mean, what am I supposed to say? Bottas is like you ordered, like an Australian man off Wish.com, and Joe is just, he's doing all right, to be fair, but the car's just not there, and they're really, really far down the grid. The only team they're beating is AlphaTauri, and that's like saying, "Oh, well done, I beat someone who was asleep in a race." So it's just I don't know what you want to say. They're probably going to be quite weak. They've been pretty naff everywhere. They weren't very good around Monaco, and Hungary's Monaco without the balls. So that means the Perez is either going to win or bin it in Q1, probably the latter. And it's just we're going to have much of the same, where teams have struggled at high downforce, sort of like fairly low-ish speeds. And now, granted, Hungary's got more medium speed corners than like full-on low speed corners. But there is nothing quite like Monaco, rightly so. But yeah, they're just. We say it every week. I say it when I host, and it's just like, are they just treading money to the Audi money comes in? Yes. What are they doing this year? They're probably just giving up on development already. They might as well bring back Minicia Coltonborn just for the absolute bants, because I was going to say something else then. Just bring it back, just to sort of like be like, hey guys, fancy a challenge? At least they've locked out P9 in the constructors. Can take some solace from that. That's all I've got to say.
I love the fact that your Alfa Romeo review or preview featured talking about Monaco and Sergio Perez. That's just how anonymous the Alfa team have become once again. They had a flash in the pan of a few races last year where it looked like they might be relevant again. But who knows? The other of the 2 Alfa cars, that names will be disappearing from the grid this year. So at the end of this season, so we will never have to talk about the Alfas again after this season. Well, hopefully that's the case. Anyway, unless rumours are true that Alfa Romeo may be heading to Haas. Can you imagine that, Charlie? An Alfa Romeo Haas team for next year, if rumours are to be had. And they've now dropped behind Williams in the championship. How do you see their chances of improving this weekend, especially as they probably do have Haas, probably the quickest car out of the 3 bottom teams there? But how do you see their chances?
I think it's going to be more of the same for Haas, unfortunately. And we kind of say this every week. Regardless of who the panel is, Haas will have a decent one-lap pace. They might do well in qualifying. Hulkenberg can, he can put that car around in a decent amount of time. But once the red lights, the 5 red lights go out, then they'll just progressively fall back until they're lower in the pack, and they're going to continue what they do and be ahead of the Alphas and both Alphas. I guess right now that they can take solace in is that with Hulkenberg, they are saving lots of money on crash cars for their slim part of the prize money in 8th right now. They're just going to save that and hope for the best for next year at this rate.
Yeah, that's all true. And I do think Hulkenberg has definitely proven us wrong as well this season. I think he's doing a great job, and Magnussen has kind of been shown up a little bit. I think it has to be said. I think it kind of shows what a low bar Schumacher was setting on a race perspective, because he certainly seems to be doing well as a test driver, but certainly race level just didn't seem to be up to it. And then how low a bar was Nikita Mazepin then, if you consider how much better Mick Schumacher was than Mazepin. It may all be completely circumstantial and not relevant with different cars, different people and everything. So, but Haas hopefully can try and break away from those bottom two and try and keep pace with Williams, who have now jumped them, Owain, and they seem to be on the up. And I think this is long anticipated and long wanted by a lot of fans. Williams, a lot of people's second favorite team, very few people's first favorite team, because they're not stupid. But some big point scores in recent races, and they're higher than they've been in a very long time. 4 or 5 years, I think it's been since they've been in 7th place in the championship. This, however, though, very different circuit to what the kind of tracks where they have been going very well. Is this the acid test for the newly invigorated Williams team, or are we going to see them dropping back down the grid again? I
think it is. I think this will be the sort of, as you say, this isn't traditionally a circuit that would play to the Williams' strengths. Obviously, the way where they've done well in the past have been high speed circuits with nice long straights, and they seem to have a relatively aerodynamically efficient car when you take the downforce off. So Canada, Silverstone, and Austria, seem to benefit that most. I can't remember if they've had an upgrade since those races or during those races, but heading to Hungary, obviously that's traditionally a circuit where it's much more chassis dependent. You put a lot more downforce on, and I'm not sure they can generate that kind of peak downforce while sort of still maintaining the speed. So you look back at, if you go back to sort of Spain, that's kind of the only similar circuit on the calendar that we've had thus far that's similarly high speed. Obviously Monaco's again high downforce, but you don't go anywhere near as quick, and they drop significantly in pace. So they only got to I think Albon was 16th and Sargent finished last. Both of them a lap down. So it's looking at that coupled with the high downforce understanding of the car that we have currently. It doesn't look good. I hope that they've the changes that they have made sort of rectify that. But just going based off the information we have right now, I think it's going to be quite a difficult weekend.
Yeah, I would hasten to agree. I hope not. I hope they can genuinely move forwards, but they always have had and will continue to have in the next few years until they're actually able to improve their facilities. They're going to have a peaky car that's going to be quick on some circuits and terrible on others. So they just need to make sure that Albon and Sargent maximize those opportunities when they come about. But speaking of maximizing opportunities, sorry, Tom, I'm giving you another poor performer in Alpine. Disaster at Silverstone. Are you off now? Are you leaving?
No, I've given up. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm out.
I'm sorry. I'm
sorry. It's all right. I'm channeling my inner Alpine. I'm just giving up. Much like their power units do. I mean, Alpine, they're sort of like they're like this weird enigma in F1, because they don't have any customer teams at the minute. And it's just like, where do we go? What do we say? Because it's like they'll either have the kind of weekend where they will, absolutely sort of like be best of the rest. They'll have both cars in Q3 and they'll have both cars, like in the points. But then, on the flip side, they might have the kind of weekend where they just get, they get absolutely shafted. Whether that's by strategy or whether by a rampant Canadian, sorry, Charlie, driving into the side to them. It is a weird one. I think, I know we shouldn't use like direct comparisons, but if we look at Monaco, because like I said, Hungary, Monaco without the walls. I'm not entirely convinced by that, by the way. It's Ocon was on the podium there, to be fair, and they both qualified really well. And now I know quality means an awful lot around there. So given that they seem to have somewhat of a good sort of like peaky downforce setup, which can sustain the speed. Now nobody's going to be able to sustain sort of downforce speeds like Red Bull can. It's just nobody's there, but I think they'll have the pace to go well this weekend. The main issue, and we joke about it in the past, but we joke about it because it is true, is if the power units can hold out, because Hungary can get really, really hot this time of year. I know because I've been there for the Grand Prix back in 2016, and my word, it was hot, and it was muggy and stuffy, and sweaty, as the kids say. So, not ideal conditions for a power unit which is temperamental at best. If they can hold on for the reliability, I would hope for a good result. I want to see Alpine do well because I actually quite like them. Yes, they've lost some positions to McLaren now in the constructors after Silverstone, because obviously Alpine double DNF, all the rest of it. We all know how Silverstone went. So yeah, I think they can get good points, and I want to see them get good points as well.
Yeah, and looking at the weather for the weekend, it doesn't look like it's going to be too hot on the Friday and Saturday with rain forecast. So another race where we might potentially have some rain. We'll wait and see how that pans out. It's still a long way out, and we've no idea what the weather's actually going to do just yet. But you never know. We could well have a similar start to the 2021 race. That'll be quite fun, wouldn't it? And yes, as you said, that Alpine bit of a disaster, dropping behind McLaren now. But obviously, Ocon did win here a few years ago as well in those mixed conditions. I know it was a very different scenario, and it involved a certain Mr. Hamilton taking the grid all by himself as well to facilitate that happening. But a little wry smile there from Tom. And so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do pull back from that and see if they can continue on the run that the Alpine team have had at this circuit, because they've won here. Quite a large percentage of the races that Alpine have been here. I know they've only been here for a couple of races, but still. Okay, so we're going to move on then to McLaren. Then Charlie, you get the honour of the glorious McLaren team from the Silverstone Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. They doubled their points tally in just 2 hours of racing last time round. Piastri has arrived. Norris is on fire. Can they take the next step this weekend? Can they win it? Or is it just going to be dropping back into the midfield again?
Winning might be a bit of a stretch, as much as I want to see the Papayas go 1 and 2, but I know what the actual odds are. But in terms of the McLaren's growth and success this year, there's always a thing I kind of do in sports broadcasting when there's a team that starts to get on a roll, and the last 2 races they've done very well with the upgrades being added and everything, and it's always one good performance is a miracle, twice is a fluke, 3 times though, if you can string 3 together, then you're actually on to something. So I think this weekend will determine whether or not McLaren's actually back in it, or if it's more of just the roller coaster that it has been this year. That being said, the performance of Norris and Piastri last week at Silverstone was incredible racing on their part, and holding off the Mercedes and everything for Norris. And if it wasn't for the safety car, Piastri very well could have had the podium. So I think I would definitely think that if they're on this, if they continue where they're at now, there very well could be the potential for a double podium again, because they seem to still be faster than Mercedes, and Ferrari will be Ferrari and put inters on if there's a hint of rain before the race, and that's how they'll start it or something like that. Like it's we've seen it before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that McLaren do have a pretty good reputation here. Certainly not in the last 10 years, but it's not since that Jenson Button win, that fantastic Jenson Button win in 2011. They've had Lewis Hamilton winning in 2012, but they have won the race 6 times between 2012 and back in 2005. And Red Bull have only won this race a couple of times, a handful of times, once with Daniel Ricciardo, once with Max Verstappen, and once with Mark Webber. So there's a bit of hope there. I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to Red Bull. But McLaren, a bit of pedigree here in the past, and if they're certainly returning to the to the chrome ways that they were in Silverstone, then maybe the memories of that chrome McLaren can come back and win some more races in Hungary. I'd be tempted to come straight to Tom now for Ferrari, but I will go to Owain just because I actually like Tom and I don't want him to leave the podcast just yet. So I'm afraid you've got Ferrari another week, another confusing race strategy and rumours flying around about their drivers and going in for Lando Norris. And last win here was 2017 with Sebastian Vettel. They've had reasonable success here though over the years, and can you expect this to be one of those weekends, or are we going to see another crazy strategy where they go on full wets in baking sunshine?
Oh, I don't know. With Ferrari, Hungary's typically thrown up a sort of a bit of a curveball on the strategy, which means that Ferrari are inevitably going to go backwards. I mean, their performance in Silverstone was so poor. They'd have a couple of decent races, if not what's good for Ferrari, but relatively decent for any other team in the couple of races before. But they very clearly hadn't taken the same kind of steps that everyone else had in Britain, and they dropped like a stone. They were fairly decent in qualifying, so I expect their strengths to be there too. I think it's just that their execution of a whole weekend just seems compromised in some way. I think it's kind of got to them a bit too much, and I don't really see them doing anything particularly spectacular. I think they need Aston Martin to come towards them and get worse before, rather than them get better. I don't see them actually able to improve, which is worrying, if anything. And I think it's going to be a difficult weekend, and all this kind of scrutiny. And at the moment, you have people speculating about the drivers. There's probably a grain of truth involved in it. If I were Norris, I wouldn't touch Ferrari with a 10-foot pole. So I think at the moment you've got that kind of scrutiny on you, it makes everything harder. And I think it's going to be luckily they can't really drop lower than 4th, but then again, it seems perfectly within the realms of possibility by the 2 races after the summer break.
Challenge accepted, the Ferrari strategy team say. Can we finish 5th? We can do it, lads. Come on. I completely agree. It's a bit of a difficult season for them in more ways than one, and it'd be difficult to see where they move forward from here. But so we'll move on to Aston Martin, the team that are still ahead of them, despite the race pace really dropping off a cliff in recent races, Tom. And the last time Alonso won here was the first time he ever won a race in 2003. So he's not won since that amazing first victory. So realistically, should this be his last chance to win a race ever again, or is that me just enjoying the symmetry?
No, nobody's going to beat that Red Bull, and I don't care sort of like how good Alonso is, and he is fantastic. Nobody is going to beat Max in that car this year. It would take some divine intervention. Maybe if Ferrari and Red Bull swap strategists for a week, then potentially. But I think Aston Martin needs to be realistic and know that their fight is with Mercedes for P2 in the constructors. Because Alonso is basically propping that team up, because Stroll is doing his absolute best to make sure they get P3 and not P2 in the constructors. And if they're not careful with the way their pace is going, they could end up P4. Because you've got a resurgent McLaren, Mercedes, who, whilst they don't have perhaps the best qualifying pace. They have really good race pace, really good race pace, as we've seen. And they're pretty soft on their tires as well. As evidenced by Russell last week. Excuse me. So they need to make sure they get both cars in the top 6, I would say. And Hungary is not an easy circuit to do it at. It's a difficult, complex, twisty circuit with quite a lot of undulation, and there's quite a lot of elevation changes. So I think Alonso should comfortably be in there. I think this is the kind of circuit where he'll thrive anyway. Because you can really sort of like understeer the car. And if you think about that, the long sort of left hander, I think that's turn 3, where where then switch back to the right with turn 4. I think I got my turns. I might be turn 2 to turn 3. I'm thinking of. I can't remember, but it's the sort of the long hairpin in the first sector. You people know what I mean. I hope. If you don't, well, soz. It's I think Alonso will probably do well around there. Stroll, I honestly don't know what to say. Because he's either going to sort of like surprise us all and go and whack it on like a surprise front row, or he's going to go out in Q2 again. And I don't want to keep beating the same, the sort of same horse about Stroll, but he has to do better. And he's already cost that team P2 in the constructors, I'd say, because the rate that they're falling back, Mercedes have got the measure of them, and there's only so much Alonso can do by himself. And I don't know. I think they just need to get to the summer break, bring some big upgrades, and realize that okay, we can't live off that initial hype forever. Monaco was best part 2 months ago. Now, you need to move on and realize that improvements need to be made.
Yeah, no, that's all fair enough, and hopefully with the aerodynamic testing regulations, and that's been reset now, but they would have had, with the lead times and everything, there should be some upgrades coming through. They did have a lot of aerodynamic testing time available to them, so theoretically they could still bring a lot of upgrades to that car and improve its aero efficiency between now and the end of the season. But yeah, they have fallen behind Mercedes, and they do seem to be dropping back a little bit now, certainly based on the last race, even with Mercedes upgrades, Charlie. But they didn't work as well as they expected last time out. And yes, they managed to rescue a podium and a P5, but wasn't really what they were expecting. But around this track, it's Lewis Hamilton territory. He's won here almost as many times as Nick de Vries has taken race starts. So it's a bit of a Mercedes stronghold in recent years. Can Mercedes fans expect something special this weekend, or is it still just the fact it's just going to be Red Bull?
I think it still will be Red Bull because, again, as Tom alluded to, and everyone has alluded to week after week since the season really started, that Red Bull is just on another level of performance. That being said, if anyone could do it around this track, it would be Lewis. And the upgrades that they brought didn't really do what they had intended to at Silverstone, but they also, and sometimes when cars bring upgrades, they didn't go backwards either. It was very much kind of, okay, we've adjusted the car, we've altered the car, but we're still kind of at that same spot. And they're second in the constructors for a reason. So they can still hang their hat on. Yes, we still have a decent car. We still have decent pace. And now they're clawing away at Checo because as he starts to fall down, Hamilton might be able to climb even closer to second. It's depending on how these next 2 races go and the summer break comes up. I can see Mercedes hanging their hat on something positive out of this race for sure.
Yes, from a competition point of view, we all hope you're right on that, and we'll just wait and see. I guess it's like you say, the upgrades, they just didn't seem to do an awful lot. Or if they did, they certainly did make the car worse. We may find that coming to this kind of circuit, it may be better for them. So from a competition standpoint, let's hope that's the case, and we at least have Red Bull fighting. But we'll move on to the runaway championship leaders, Owain. Now, Red Bull, attention surely turning on, can they win every race now instead of will they win the title? Vastly approaching the summer break, and they've still won any race. Give us some hope for this weekend.
They could crash out. That's the only hope I can give you, to be honest. But I mean,
Bottas is on the track, so there's always that chance.
Yeah, but we've seen Verstappen as spun and won this race, and that was with last year's car, which was nowhere near. Well, not nowhere near. It was incredible, but it wasn't. It wasn't close to how good this one is. But if anything, there's just less competition. As you say, can they win the title is sort of out of the way when they've got double the points of anyone else. They're so far ahead. But let's be honest, it's going to be the Verstappen show. He's almost 100 points ahead of Perez. I don't think Perez is particularly good around here. I don't see it sort of being within his wheelhouse. I think Perez needs to watch his back and just make sure he gets, at least just get on the podium this time. By comparison, Verstappen's probably going to be on the top step. It's kind of someone's done the maths, as Tom points out very helpfully for me in the chat here. Max can finish every race in P2 and still win the title. So it's going to be the Max Verstappen show, I imagine, again, which means hopefully we can just watch what happens behind, because it's a lot more interesting. That said, we could find that should it be hot, should it be very, very warm, we could see the Red Bull come back towards the pack. Come back towards the pack and or have reliability issues that have failed to rear their head up until this point. But apart from that, I can't see any really realistic sort of opportunities for anyone else to mix it in for the win here.
Yeah, as I say, anything can happen in Formula One, and occasionally it does. So you never know. It's possible we might get another winner besides a Red Bull. I think from Checo's perspective, he just needs to look after his seat now. I think championship's gone. He just needs to accept that Max is going to beat him every time, except when something weird happens, and then just get that car within half a second of Max and be, you know what, that'll do. Come home on the podium every race for now and the end of the season. And if he ends up getting a race win, fantastic. Not for me, but fantastic. And certainly not for our podcast viewers. But yes, that's probably the best thing for Checo to do. Max, he's just got to tick off the records now, see how many drivers he can usurp for most wins in the history of Formula One by the end of the season. I think I might right be saying he could be third by the end of the year if he wins every single race, which is just unbelievable statistic. But we'll go on to predictions now then. Tom, I'll come to you first then. Do you want to give us your pole position prediction, your podium, and then give us a bold prediction as well?
Yeah, so pole, I'm going to shock absolutely nobody and say that Max is going to get it. Podium, I think Max is going to walk it. I'm going to say, I think I'm going to say George Russell P2. And I'm going to go an outside bet, and I'm going to say one of the Alpines P3, which in turn I think is my bold prediction as well.
That's definitely a bold prediction. Yeah, no, I'll accept that. So you're not hedging your bets; you're going all out on that podium and a Max Verstappen.
Why
win.
not?
Why not? Why not? Eh? Right, Charlie, do you want to give us your predictions then? Pole position, your podium, and a bold prediction.
Mine can kind of all be wrapped up in one. Because I think that this coming race weekend could be a battle just between Verstappen, Norris, and Hamilton. Now, I think Max will obviously come out on top on pole and the race and everything like that. But in quali, I think that either Norris or Hamilton could challenge for P1 to start the race. And I believe that that's how the podium will end up. It's just a matter of Norris on the second step, or is it Hamilton? I want to keep the McLaren dream alive.
And I very, very much appreciate that. So is that as part of your bold prediction as well, or have you got a different?
No, I think that's a pretty fair one. I think my bold prediction is, I'm going to go real bold here because I crapped on them at the start. I'm going to say Ricciardo top 5.
Oh wow!
Just absolutely prove everybody wrong.
I thought you were going to say scores a point, but yeah, top 5.
Top
would be wow.
I'm gonna go bold and be big bold.
You win the prize, unless you can usurp that, Owain.
I can. I just don't want to. I kind of like to see it. No, by comparison, I think. I'm going to go for Verstappen for pole and the win, and the fastest lap and keys to the city, both of them in Budapest. What? You know what? I'm gonna say that. I'm going to go for a double podium for McLaren.
Okay.
I'm going to maintain that it's a decent car, and this is the new norm. And as a bold prediction, I'm going to say Perez ends up on the podium
in that car.
Yeah,
saying Perez ends up on the podium does actually seem quite bold the way he's been performing recently. Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm going to go very predictable and say Max Verstappen pole position, but less predictably, I'm going to attempt to do my manifestation again. I'm going to go for a Lewis Hamilton win with Max Verstappen coming home a close second and George Russell coming home in third place. There's just something about the Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton around that track. I just got this feeling something's going to happen. It might be rain related. It might be Bottas related. But something will happen. I think Max will still finish on the podium because Max is what Max does. But I'm also going to say for my bold prediction that Lance Stroll beats Alonso genuinely on pace. And that is a bold prediction. So if you've enjoyed this podcast today, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're one of those listeners that are not subscribed to the channel, why not like and subscribe now and ensure you never miss a show again. Don't forget to click that bell so you know when we're live. We've got well over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube now, so thank you for your support, and please consider sharing us with any friends who like-minded, love Formula One, and want a podcast to listen to. Before we go, Owain, would you like to plug anything?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, unfortunately. You know what? Come follow us on Threads. You'll have to go and find our page each time. It's at Grid Talk UK, as Tom mentioned earlier, but you will be able to see what we're threading.
Is that a term? I'm not sure.
I don't know what the verb is yet. It's too new.
No. Do we have a Truth Social page? No, we probably don't. So I also signed up for Threads as well. I have 2 followers, which is my podcast and Grid Talk. So yay, go Threads. Tom, what would you like to plug?
I'd like to plug Formula Talk, which is a sister show to this show, Grid Talk. So it is done with Sophia. She's the she keeps saying we're co-host, but no, she's the main host. It was her idea, so she needs the credit for it. So she and I do that. We record it most weeks, so that covers F2, F3, F1 Academy, and we are also touching on things like FRACA, and then starting to look at IndyCar as well. The only issue with Formula Talk is we can't talk about every single series because I wouldn't have time to sleep or do anything else. So we do primarily cover the junior open wheeler categories, and then also having a look at IndyCar. Aside from that, nothing.
Fantastic, and that's well worth a listen to as well. It's great to have that as your own kind of separate feed, and it's difficult to kind of give it the attention it deserves on shows like this. So to have a separate one that just covers all that is really great, and definitely go and give that a listen as well. And Charlie, what would you like to plug?
Anybody who likes sports from high school level to professional level, try Eastlink if you're in Atlantic Canada, because we're your local non-for-profit community sports broadcaster. So we try and deliver as much as we can. And just to plug everybody else's podcasts, Tom, you have a good show. Both Toms have a good show, Formula Talk, and sorry, Tom, this time. Monkey Seat, thank you.
You do the plug, so I don't have to. Great, thanks.
Say they're all great. So everybody give everybody a listen, because the crew over here produces good content aside from Grid Talk.
Very much appreciated that plug. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you want to hear more from us, from me and my co-host Carl, we're at Monkey Seat Pod, and you can catch us on all the usual places on there. And I am at Tom Horrox F1 on Twitter, and I'm also on Threads. But yeah, don't go there. There's no point. There's nothing on there yet. We'll soon see how this pans out. And don't forget to follow us at Grid Talk UK everywhere you can get an @ symbol. All our race shows do go out live on YouTube straight after the event. Not the preview shows like this one. This one will go out slightly after we record it. But everything that has live action to react to, we put out live. The audio version does go out slightly later, but that is available on Amazon Fire, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Verbal, and Pocket Casts. And we also do run a Patreon, which helps us to continue doing what we're doing, buying better mics, lights, and recording equipment, which came in very handy for the Grid Talk live episode we did fairly recently with lapel mics and all kinds of stuff in a pub. It was great to watch. I really enjoyed watching that one. Just a shame I couldn't be there. But we will be back this weekend to bring you the all the action from the Hungarian Grand Prix. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.